we come to you to review what has just happened, the United States versus Netherlands in their second game of this World Cup here in group stage. 1-1 it finishes, Mosse. Initial thoughts?
A lot to unpack with this game. All I'm going to say is, in the lead up to this World Cup, every guest we had, I asked them about Vlad Kondonovsky and how confident they felt that he was the right coach to lead the U.S. to another World Cup title. And everybody told me, no concerns, Vladko is the right guy, he's not an issue. But I am starting to have some doubts. I already had some doubts going into this tournament, and today increased those doubts because he did some strange stuff.
All right, well, let's start with the first half. And it was a tale of two halves for the U.S. First half, it was awful. I thought that the Netherlands was better from a physical perspective. I thought that the Netherlands came on and punched the United States in the face, and the U.S. women's national team had nothing in response. I thought that they won most duels. I thought that they won second balls. So from a physical perspective, they were better. From a tactical perspective, playing three in the back, and a true three in the back, because we all know people say it's three and it ends up being five, a true three in the back, and overloading the midfield. Now, that in and of itself is a tactical decision, but it's not as if they just came out of nowhere in terms of the way that this Dutch team plays. So Vlatko Kondonovsky and his staff should have been aware that that happened. And I'm sure they were, but they didn't adjust for it, and it very, very quickly became a problem for this U.S. team. And then, from a technical standpoint, the ability of this Dutch team to play out of the back with 1 and 2 touches, and even on the goal, ultimately, with the wonderful setup touch and the finish, it just showed that in that first half, this Dutch team was miles ahead of this U.S. team. Now, tale of two halves. Second half was a little different. First half thoughts in terms of the way that the U.S. played, and obviously the way that the Netherlands played. They ended up scoring a goal, completely due, completely valid, completely merited.
Yeah, the wrinkle was playing Spitze, who's a midfielder by trade, as one of those back three. She struggled a little bit defensively, but her passing out of the back really benefited them. I actually thought the opening minutes of this game reminded me a little bit of the U.S.-Netherlands round of 16 game at the last Men's World Cup, in which the U.S. did all the attacking, and then the Netherlands kind of hit them on the counter against the run of play, the Joe Roord go. But then, I agree with you, the Dutch then settled into the game. The U.S. shrunk from it, so by the time we got to halftime, it felt like the Dutch were good value for that lead.
When the lineup came out, and it was an unchanged lineup, and so therefore no Rose Lavelle. I mean, because you talked about Vlatko Kondonovsky, and so I'm asking you, let's stick to the first half. What were your concerns as that was happening, either when the lineup came out or when the first whistle blew, and then when we got into the meat of that first half?
Yeah, after the first game, I wondered if he was tinkering because it was Vietnam, or if that was the 11 that he considered his best for this World Cup. With the exception of, obviously, Rose Lavelle. I assume when she's fit enough to start, she'll come in for DeMello.
But Vlatko said that she was fit and ready to go. And obviously what that means and what percentage it means, but not enough to start against the best team in the group stage?
Well, today confirmed that he does consider this his best lineup, that one question mark over Rose notwithstanding. And it's a really entrenched 11 because Rose aside, he didn't feel confident going to anybody else on the bench, which we'll get to when we talk about the second half, which makes you think he believes the starters are way better than any other option he has at those positions.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a frustration by those of us that were watching. I'm sure at home there was a frustration that it was not going well in the first half. But it's not the worst thing in the world for this U.S. to actually face a quality opponent. That they didn't respond in the first half is a little concerning. So we get to halftime, and look, we judge coaches on their ability to make adjustments. And you're not always going to get it right, but you do have moments, in particular at halftime, where you can do some different things and substitutions. So Rose then comes in, and while the tactical formation doesn't necessarily change, how the formation plays and the quality of Rose relative to what was out there immediately increases, and it had an immediate impact. So I think the Rose change was warranted, but I think it was also obvious, and everybody knew, including Vlatko Kondonovsky.
Yeah.
Even he was able to see that needed to be made.
I'm not going to give him too much credit on that one. And it was a tale of two subs at halftime because Rose came on, that improved the U.S., and Stephanie van der Graft, who scored for the Dutch in the opener against Portugal and was having a very good game marshaling that back line, she had to come off, and I think that weakened the Dutch. So the combination of those two developments, I think, really helped the U.S. in the second half.